But Yellowknife, right? We live in the Yellowknife Northwest Territories, which is about 1,200, which is subarctic, just below the Arctic Circle in Canada, about 1,200 miles straight north of Calgary in Alberta. And the temperature there, it's been a little cool lately. It's probably below 0, like Celsius right now. At night it's probably 5 below, so it's still pretty chilly. We do get down to 40 below. We do get down to maybe 45 sometime, but then when you add the wind to it, if you get a really strong wind, you can get as much as 80 below with the wind chill. So, and when you start getting up the wind chills that cold, it doesn't matter how well dressed you are, you can feel it.
Minus 40. That is absolutely staggering. How long can you actually be outside in that sort of temperature before it's dangerous?
Well, if you're dressed for it, you can actually last quite a long outside. You can manage it all day long. There's a lot of people spend a lot of time there. Usually the problem is, like when we're working around trucks, we usually keep one pair of gloves on the heater, and then you're working the other pair of gloves, and you might last, you know, depending on how good your circulation is. The younger fellas last a little longer, and the older ones usually, the exterior points start getting numb pretty quickly. And you just keep changing gloves as you work, you know, tying down loads or taking your loads off. But you know, in a situation where you have an accident, if you don't have support, you don't. It doesn't take long before hypothermia sets in. You know, if you go in the water or anything like that, then unless you got support close by, you don't last very long.
Wow, so it's quite scary. How did the actual show come about? Because I read that you was doing this for a long, long time. And then what, did suddenly you get approached by the History Channel who said, right, it'd be a great idea to actually film this? I mean, how did the actual show actually start? How did it come about, and what's your involvement?
Well, I've been working on the ice in the wintertime. Northern Canada, United States also, there's a lot of areas. We have native communities, Eskimo Indian communities, also you know, oil rigs, mines that are only accessible by heavy equipment and truck in the wintertime when the rivers and the lakes turn to ice. You can drive on them, otherwise you have to access them with boat and plane, which is very expensive. And of course in the north we have this kind of thing, and it just was something available. I moved up there. 1976, bought my first truck in about 80, a dump truck, and then you know, people would approach me, you know, to go and do different jobs, and one thing led to another. And yes, I was hauling with a tractor towards the diamond mines, and somebody had written a book, John Dennison, he pioneered the ice road, Dick Robinson, and there was a book written about him. And I guess there was a 1-hour documentary done on him from about 1981, and every time History Channel showed it in America, their ratings went up. So they decided, because they had the new reality genre, what they call a Dangerous Catch and American Chopper, and Original Productions out of Burbank, is they do probably half the reality shows in America. History approached the Original came up north, made a deal with a company that would allow them to film, and then they started looking for characters. And every time they interviewed an individual, either they or somebody at the next table would say, well, if you need a character, you should go see Debogorski. So eventually they showed up at my door. I was out on the lake about a month after they stopped working late. We were delivering some heavy equipment with a barge with a friend of mine, and they waited till we got back, and they basically interview you. They do they kind of check you out. They do an interview for about an hour, and then they send it back to California, and they decided they had a show. Asked me whether I wanted to participate, and I thought, since I have 11 children, and we have our 11th grandchild on the way here within a week, I thought, well, it'd be kind of nice, you know, after Grandpa's dead, if they could watch Grandpa in reruns. So I wasn't really expecting it to be really that successful, but as it turned out, I guess they will get to watch Grandpa in reruns. So basically they were looking for a character, and they felt they found one, and so I ended up with that kind of a job.
So how often are you away from home? Because you say you got 11 children, so obviously when you're back at home, you make the most of it.
No, when I'm back at home, my wife makes the most of it. I sleep in the royal position, and you know how women became aggressive in the late 60s and early 70s with women's lib and all that. She's been taking advantage of a very sad situation, you know, my back problem. You know. Well, you know, we didn't have them all at the same time. The oldest daughter is 38, and the youngest one's 10. We had sex 13 times in 38 years, and we had 2 miscarriages. So,
as the wife grabs the microphone away from them as quickly as she possibly can. So I guess you had no idea that this show was doing as well as it was to start with, because obviously it was all new. You wasn't aware, you knew it was going out, but you didn't realise that so many people were watching it and enjoying it. It must have been a surprise when actually the news got back to you that so many people were watching it and thought it was a really good show. Why do you think it is, and still is, so successful? Why do you think we enjoy watching it so much?
Well, I think that people have gotten tired of the actors, and that, you know, all these reality programming, as long as they stick to the reality end of it, that it just, you know, builds up the average working guy, the guy next door, the guy and the lady next door that live their life, do their jobs, and raise their families and deal with all the challenges of life. And I think it's long overdue that they are starting to portray the working guy and the jobs they do. Like every one of you can make a movie about your life. You know, a lot of the truckers here say, "Oh, that's a very dangerous job." I said, "Well, why do you think your hair is great?" I mean, you've done lots of things that I probably wouldn't have done, and if I would have been scared, you know, half to death. You know, I mean, you guys have to drive in traffic and deal with all sorts of situations every day. So I think that's that people are interested in seeing something that's a little true, as compared to watching a formula, you know, action movies with the same formula over and over and over against a guy, a girl, and running around 250 caliber machine guns, etc., etc. But yeah, the show, immediately we found out pretty quickly that the show started doing well, and I guess now I don't spend a lot of time at home, because when I'm not driving and being filmed, I've been promoting myself, and this is the first time I've come to Europe or to UK to you know, sign autographs and meet fans. But I did spend 4 months last year in the southern United States traveling from truck show to truck show.
That's good. What I wanted to ask you is, I think I read that when the ice road first opens, is it right that you're the first to actually go and test the road? Are you one of the first trucks to go on there? What's going through your mind because I know you test the ice and you make sure that it's thick enough and you know that it's strong enough to withstand the weight of the trucks. But even knowing all that, you must still have this nervousness and this slight not knowing that when you hear that crack and that creak all underneath you, it must be pretty nerve-wracking stuff.
Well, generally, it doesn't make me very nervous working for the big companies like where we film, because as long as I follow the rules and drive their speed limits, even though I'm one of the first trucks on the road, and I know there's only maybe 29, 30 inches of ice, I've worked in building the road, which is much more dangerous, where we're out there in 20 inches ice and 24 inches ice, and we're loading tandem water trucks. We drill a hole in the ice and you're pumping the water in the water truck, because when we're building the road we have to put water on the portages. The lakes themselves, we just plow the snow off of it and the frost goes in, and as you drive it pounds in the frost. But the portages, the land in between the lakes, are all full of holes and hummocks and stuff like that. We got to fill it in to smooth it all out with a mixture of snow and water with graders and water trucks. Of course, we go out in the lake and we've got a 6-inch hole we put in with a power auger, and we're pumping water into the truck, and you're standing there half asleep beside the truck. As the truck is sucking the water out of the lake and filling up, it becomes heavier and heavier, and the next thing you notice, the water starts coming out of the hole, because the truck is getting heavier and it's pushing the ice down. So it's a lot more nerve-wracking when you're building it. But generally in these roads it's not so bad, as compared, there's other roads where we work for smaller operators where they don't pull the sonar across, they don't really measure the ice. They'll drill a few holes and they'll say, "Oh, it's the middle of January, it's good enough." We generally get paid much better, but we do spend more time with the door open and sort of sitting on the edge of the sheet ready to jump out without your seatbelt. I wear my swimming trunks under my parka.
Have you had many people apply to do the job since the show's become so successful? Have you had a lot of people, we sit at home, we watch it going, "Oh, I could do that"? I mean, is there many people trying to get on board with it now?
A lot of the trucking companies are upset because like thousands and thousands of people have been phoning you. You know, a lot of veterans will phone, you know, from Afghanistan, Iraq, different places. I mean, there's been piles of people phoning. Their phones ring off the wall all year long.
I thought that'd probably be the case. Yeah, I thought that. And is it a good earner?
You know, one of the problems is when the Americans can't buy beer, they don't want to buy diamonds, so our economy has shrunk also. So they've laid off truck drivers. No, we've made a good living. I mean, there's drivers that come up and they'll say, "No, I make better work somewhere else in the country." I mean, like every job, you know, it's you know, you do the job, you get by, and some guy will come along and say, "Well, it's not so well." It's helped support us.